happening, gang? It's your boy Retro back again with another reaction video. Yeah. Today we got another huge update. I know y'all could probably already tell it is going down. Just by that title alone, you're definitely going to see this one as we're witnessing Fox News the Five host Harold Ford Jr. battling it out head to head against that Jessica Tarlow to see who has been the most affected by that TDS Trump derangement syndrome. And I will say Harold is making a very strong case in this update, guys. I'm excited to get into it. So we're not straight into it. Just make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Before we even get into it, y'all, hit that like button. Also hit that subscribe button for your boy. And without further ado, let's hop straight into it, folks. Check this one out.
With Brett Baer. So, Judge, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I love the idea of her going on Joe Rogan because, I mean, aren't his podcasts like a couple of hours, 2-3 hours? I mean, what makes anyone think she could get through 2 to 3 hours without repeating herself over and over again? But I think it's almost a recognition that they realize that everything is trending against them. They've got nothing to lose at this point. Remember, Joe Rogan, Trump talked about going on Rogan first, and I think this is Kamala kind of following up. But Joe Rogan he's got a big male audience, so that's a smart move. And also he's a big time supporter of RFK, who's into health and into, all of these issues about, whether it's vaccine, but it's also the FDA and all that. And I think that in the end, it's smart if she can do it. If she can't do it, I mean, it can it can finish her. It's very different from The View. The View, everybody goes, oh, you're wonderful, you're wonderful. Joe Rogan is totally different.
Yeah. And also on The View, you have a studio audience cheering you on, and that's not the case when you're one-on-one by yourself.
That's a great point Dana brings up right there, and Judge hit the nail right on the head. Kamala Harris steps foot on that Joe Rogan podcast. It's going to be night and day from the View, who is softballing, placating for, making sure that she is feeling warm and welcome. And what did Bill Maher say? Her butt will definitely not be getting pre-kissed before she walks onto the set of Joe Rogan's podcast. He simply does not mess around. We're going to get the truth, hopefully.
And also on The View, you have a studio audience cheering you on, and that's not the case when you're one-on-one by yourself. Harold, what do you think?
So I agree with the judge. This is going to be a great test. I think we have rightly so, as I said in our earlier segment, been critical of some of the things she has not done. The fact that she's doing this, I think, is a great thing for the race and a great thing for those who listen. I don't listen to a lot of these podcasts. I'm going to have to listen to one or two of these to get a chance to hear what she's saying. But in the 90 minutes she got up on stage, I think she beat President Trump in that debate. So maybe 30 minutes longer, she may not do as well. We'll see.
How does that even make sense? Excuse me. This guy says, I think she beat Donald Trump in a 90-minute debate, which we all know. How could you even call the winner in that rigged up performance? But then he says in another 30 minutes added onto that, she probably won't do as well. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, what is the logic, the reasoning behind that? Harold Ford Jr., that's more Trump derangement syndrome.
I think she beat President Trump in that debate. So maybe 30 minutes longer, she may not do as well. We'll see. President Trump, his game, listening to him, and I like him personally. I listen to him, and the name calling's got to stop. Like, I think one of the things, if I were in his campaign, I can't imagine that the Haley supporters in some of these key critical states find that appealing. You're trying to appeal to such a small group of voters at this moment, including Vice President Harris, as she thinks about this. You got to think about long and hard. What are you saying to convince that group to come to you at the very end here in these 6 or 7 states? I'm not sure that the name calling, I think Jimmy Kimmel is not a loser, but calling Jimmy Kimmel a loser is that the right thing? Finally, there was one last thing in the, what do you call it, the ECOC, the Economic Club of Chicago. President Trump was asked by I think it was the Bloomberg editor-in-chief. President Trump had talked about how world leaders respect him. He talked about Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Orban, and President Zelensky. And then the guy asked him, well, have you spoken with President Putin since you left office? And he said, I'm not going to answer that question. I keep some things private. He said, well, you just talked about the things you talked about with the other people, these other leaders. So that I think as President Trump thinks about these things, and he thinks about these last 3 weeks, I'm just trying to give balls and strikes, call them and give advice. I think long and hard about how you present that here in the last few weeks.
Greg, I think we're going to talk a little bit about this issue in the next block, but I think if President Trump were to go on Riley Gaines's podcast to talk about protecting women's sports, that could get a lot of news.
Yeah, and it's the one area that Kamala has skated by, which is what is a woman. I can't wait to hear somebody, Brett Baer, Ask her, what is a woman?
It's not happening.
Because she promoted the sex change of a double murderer, a guy who murdered a couple to get a sex change, and he got it. And the California taxpayers are paying for it. You know what Rogan is to Kamala Harris? He's the next door neighbor who supports Trump, but he has a swimming pool you really want to use. And boy, it's hot out. And she needs that swimming pool because she's drowning. That's a mixed metaphor. It doesn't really work. This is the first time, though, that she's getting outside of her padded cell. And she's like one of those patients that live in a plastic bubble. Remember The Boy in the Plastic Bubble with John Travolta? Classic film. She lacks the immune system. She lacks the immune system to go outside, to survive in reality. Meanwhile, Trump, he can sit with Rogan for 4 hours because his whole life has been nothing but casual and intense interactions, which has built up his immune system. Her media coddling has afforded her no immune system, and that's why you see her repeating things a lot. She just hasn't been pushed. She doesn't push herself. If you're still a dude and you say you're thinking about voting for Kamala, we know what you're saying. You're either voting for Trump or you're not voting. Because a dude isn't going to get up and go out of his way alone to go vote for that. He's going to have to.
I mean, come on. When you see that they're shaming men, they're coming down, they're condemning. We've seen Obama scolding black men. You know, the pressure on men to vote for these folks is just insane. So we all get the point Greg's making when he says no man is going out voting for Harris. It's the truth, man. It honestly is.
Isn't going to get up and go out of his way alone to go vote for that. He's going to have to be dragged by his wife or his girlfriend, like she's taking him to the Lilith Fair, because no guy goes to the Lilith Fair on their own. No guy goes to a craft shop on their own.
Harold. Is that true?
So
I'll tell you this. Well,
dudes cannot vote for. They can't vote for Kamala and feel like a dude because she's so. And Harold, you know this. We talked about this in the green room. You're only doing this, for.
I have a bunch of guy friends who are Republicans who have daughters and sons who are of age voting, and they've shared with me that they were Republican. They voted for President Trump in 2016. Some didn't vote for him in 2020, and they said they can't do that because they can't tell their kids something that they can't lie to their kids, so they're going to vote for Kamala Harris. I'm just saying, I've heard this.
What? Come on, you guys. This is absolute insanity. This guy, Harold Ford, is making this stuff up on the fly. First half, he says, Kamala Harris beat Donald Trump in the 90-minute debate, but she may not do as well with 30 minutes tacked on the back half. Now he's saying that he has Republican friends that are voting for Harris because they're kids. It just does not make sense.
They can't lie to their kids, so they're going to vote for Kamala Harris. I'm just saying, I've heard
you
this
have
as well.
Republican friends that are voting for Kamala?
What?
You do not.
That's
the biggest lie you've ever told.
What would make me lie about that?
I want to meet him.
What would make me lie
I want to meet him.
about that?
Let's get him on tomorrow.
Yeah,
Give me the number.
We'll call him
I don't believe that.
We'll call him after
I
the
just
show.
wanted to mention one thing, Jesse. So on some of these policy podcasts, or some of the podcasts have gotten deep into policy, like on Theo Vaughn's podcast, Trump was talking about healthcare transparency, but then I can't remember the name of the guys. He was on with some comedians, and he told the story about how he got mad at Don Jr. for bringing home too many kids for a party. And just
that's Andrew Schultz's
okay.
podcast.
It was one of those things where if you can pull it off, they can work well for you.
Usually the best podcast guests are an expert in a field. They can go deep. A comedian who can just be entertaining the whole time, or a great storyteller. Kamala Harris is none of those things. And Rogan is not a conservative. He's more of an independent. And so he's not going to go out and throttle her. But what he will do is he will ask basic follow-up questions like, well, what did you mean by that?
Right.
Yeah.
Or, well, tell me how that's going to work.
And also because he's got time, he doesn't have to jump ahead and
That's the thing. Time. They're going to limit the time to under an hour because they're scared of the follow-up question, right?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yo, there we have it, guys. Dana and Greg Gutfeld pointing out a very valid point there at the end. They may shorten down, Joe Rogan's original or regular show. It runs for 3 hours in duration, but they may shorten it down, maybe an hour, hour and a half, in order to avoid those follow-up questions, because she's been ducking and dodging the follow-ups. She'll answer the original question with either some long drawn-out word salad or the fact that she came from a middle-class family upbringing with her mom and her sister. Or she may take the other option and just cancel the show once she realizes that she's in over her head. But honestly, at this point, it's all or nothing for their campaign. You know, you either win or you lose, because the polls are showing that she is slipping as far as the voter support, and they have to do something drastic in order to get some support back on their side. Maybe this will work, or maybe it'll be an epic fail. I guess we'll have to see. We also just seen Harold Ford Jr. putting on display his Trump derangement syndrome, those blinders and blocks that he has, where he is still trying to preach this narrative to say that Kamala Harris won that 90-minute ABC debate. I'm not sure how he's calling a winner through all of what we've seen during that debate, but he's saying somehow Kamala Harris won it. And then don't even get me started on that story he told about his Republican friends are voting Democrat. I mean, come on, you guys. Hop in the comment section and let me know your thoughts. Also, make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you'd enjoy more content like this, catch you guys on the next week.